Blood Moon, the fall of Black Hollow. A nightmare of endless terror, Black Hollow was already a dead town before the horror began. Forgotten by time, swallowed by endless forests, it was a place where people whispered of curses and things lurking beyond the trees. The heart of its darkness lay in the ruins of Ravenglen Manor, a crumbling, cursed estate that no one dared to approach. They said something unnatural had been buried there, something that should never be disturbed. On the night of the blood moon, the earth trembled. Beneath the ruins, stone cracked and wood splintered as an ancient coffin shattered. A skeletal hand reached out from the darkness. Count Victor Dragunov had risen. His skin was gray, stretched thin over ancient bones, his eyes two pits of bottomless void. His teeth, long and needle-like, gleamed in the moonlight as he inhaled his first breath of unlike in centuries. The hunger was unbearable. With inhuman speed, he ascended from the depths, standing in the ruins of his once great home. The air smelled of fresh blood. His kingdom had fallen, but the world was ripe for conquest once more. And so the feeding began. The town slept. No one saw the first shadow darting across the rooftops, moving with impossible silence. No one heard the faint whisper of something inhuman slipping through their windows. Old Thomas, the butcher, was the first to die. He lay in bed, his breath heavy with sleep, until a cold hand pressed against his chest. His eyes shot open, and he barely had time to scream before fangs sank into his throat. The pain was excruciating, like liquid fire burning through his veins as his blood was drained. His body spasmed, his limbs thrashing, but the thing on top of him was too strong. It fed, sucking the life from him, until all that remained was a dried-out husk. Then it moved on. 2 houses down, a young mother named Eleanor woke to the sound of her baby crying. Groggy, she staggered out of bed, only to freeze when she saw the figure standing in the corner of the room. A man, tall, impossibly thin, his face barely human, watched her with eyes that burned with hunger. She opened her mouth to scream, but he was already there, his fingers closing around her throat. Her scream turned to a gurgle as his fangs tore into her neck. Blood sprayed across the crib, drenching the wailing infant in a tide of crimson. Eleanor's body twitched violently, her arms reaching out in a final desperate plea, then fell limp. The vampire pulled away, licking his lips. And then, with slow, deliberate steps, he turned toward the crib. The baby's cries grew shrill, then cut off with a sickening crunch. By the time the sun rose, 15 people were missing. By the next sunset, the town would be a graveyard. Part 3. The invasion of the dead. The infection spread faster than anyone could understand. The bitten rose before dawn, their eyes black voids, their mouths twisted into unnatural grins. They did not move like humans. They twitched, their bones cracking as they crawled from their beds and out into the streets. By dusk, Black Hollow was under siege. Sheriff Malcolm Grayson stood at the center of town, his revolver shaking in his hand as he watched the horror unfold. His deputy Collins had his throat torn out right beside him. Blood sprayed across the cobblestone street as a shrieking, laughing thing latched onto his corpse, sucking greedily at the wound. From every alleyway, every doorway, figures emerged. The townspeople, his friends, his neighbors, were no longer human. Their skin had turned sickly gray, their mouths lined with rows of jagged teeth. They swarmed. Grayson fired, his bullets punching through flesh, but it didn't matter. They kept coming, clawing, biting, laughing. Then something massive descended from the rooftops, landing right in front of him. Count Victor Dragunov. The ancient vampire stood in the middle of the carnage, his face blank with hunger. His eyes locked onto the sheriff. Grayson tried to run. He didn't make it 3 steps before Victor's hand shot out and gripped his skull. The sheriff's scream was lost in a sickening crunch as his head was torn clean from his shoulders, his spine still dangling. The vampire held the severed head for a moment, examining it with mild amusement. Then he tossed it aside like garbage. The night belonged to the dead now. There were survivors, at first. They barricaded themselves inside the church, boarding up the doors, clutching whatever weapons they could find. Father Donovan, a man of faith his entire life, stood at the altar, clutching a silver cross. He whispered prayers, his voice trembling. Then the whisper started. From outside, from inside. Let us in. The survivors pressed against the walls, gripping each other in terror. Then came the knocking. Slow, gentle. A child's voice. Mommy, please, open the door. A woman sobbed. That's my daughter. No, someone whispered. Your daughter is dead. The knocking grew louder. Then the entire wall collapsed. They poured in like a flood, pale, writhing things with gaping mouths and blackened eyes. The church erupted in chaos. Father Donovan raised his cross, only for Victor to seize it in his bare hand. The vampire smiled, his teeth glistening with blood. "Your God is not here." Then he shoved the cross down the priest's throat. The man choked, his body convulsing as the silver burned through his insides. His skin blistered, his flesh peeling away as his screams filled the church. The survivors ran. It didn't matter. The massacre continued. By dawn, the town was gone. Blood dripped from the rooftops. The streets were lined with corpses, their eyes wide with frozen terror. Houses burned, the flames casting long shadows against the rising sun. And at the center of it all stood Count Victor, his army of the dead at his back. This was only the beginning. Beyond the forest lay more towns, more people, more blood to drink. The world had forgotten him. But now, the world would remember, and it would drown in blood. This is just the beginning. Don't forget to like and subscribe and watch out for the next.